So I'm having a few small computer issues this morning, and I think my computer is protesting because it knows that I find this topic to be extremely cringeworthy. Um, so I've been getting asked more and more on the YouTube channel and through ArizonaDrone.net and through private phone calls and emails. Everybody wants to know about pricing. I completely and totally understand, where do I even begin to talk about pricing? Where do I begin to plan my own pricing, right? In my case, several years ago, I took a class from a company called You Gurus, and it was a class on building your website business, which is a big part of my business. And so it was a multi-week class where I interacted with instructors and students, and one of the big things was talking about pricing your services. And, in the end, when you're all said and done and you take these courses and you learn a lot, and you walk away really enthused to go out building, you still have to figure out pricing. And same with drone services. How do I set a price point? Well, quite honestly, pricing is going to depend on a lot of things. And that's one of the things that I really want to reinforce with today's video. I'm not going to give you some price model or Rich's magic contract. There's no such thing. But I can walk you through some of how you make your decisions about pricing. Now, just a few videos ago, I talked about a construction job that I didn't take, and that was an interesting experience. But I really should have known right off the bat when I got the phone call. It reminded me a lot of my web design phone calls. And so here's the core of a web design phone call. I answer the phone, I say my name, Rich Charpentier, and then the person on the other end of the phone usually says, "Is this RLC Design?" And I say, "Yes, it is. And what can I help you with today?" "I need to build a website. What's that going to cost?" "Huh, you need a website? And what's that going to cost?" Well, that's probably going to depend on a few things, like what do you need the website to do? So right off the bat, for every person that gets in touch with you through email or through a phone call, you need to slow them down a little bit. A lot of clients are in a rush. The gentleman who got in touch last week needed a job done in under 24 hours, so less than 24 hours notice, didn't care about complying with FAA rules and regulations, and was just in a blazing hurry. I should have known not even to waste too much time with him, because that's not the kind of client that I usually want to deal with. I actually want to have a conversation with the client. So when someone calls you and says, "How much is a drone flight?" Well, that's going to depend. What are you wanting me to do? Am I documenting 1 acre for you? Am I documenting 100 acres for you, 1,000? We need to get a baseline of the services that the customer wants. So before you throw out any kind of number at somebody who's on the phone, slow it down, dial it back, find out what services they need. Earlier this year, one of the projects that I've been using as an example throughout my videos here on YouTube and over on Udemy, that particular project, the initial phone call that I got in July from the client said that they wanted some construction progression work. And I said, "That's excellent." So my first question is always, what's the location, so that I can look it up, make sure if I'm in controlled airspace that I can get authorization, or find out that I'm not in controlled airspace and I can go have at it. Once I have that information, my next question to them is, "So what are you looking for?" And the person who contacted me on behalf of that company said, "I'm not really sure. We've never done this before." Whew, big flag right there. That's where you have a job of educating your client on what's possible. So in the case when I was talking with this woman, I said, "So are you thinking some still photography month over month to show the changes? Are you thinking video month over month to show the changes?" And she excitedly said, "Yeah, that sounds good." So I was actually driving that sale. I was driving what services they were going to get. I also offered, I said, "How about some 360 panos, maybe a digital elevation model of the construction property, maybe a orthomosaic model." And I had to educate that customer on those items. So The first phone call that I had with her had no pricing involved whatsoever. I didn't throw out any kind of number. I did say to her, I'd like to research it a little more. I've looked up the location where the construction project's going on. I would like to actually go take a look at the project site, think a little bit about your needs, and then can I give you a call tomorrow? Would 8:30 be okay? And that's literally how I guided the conversation. That gave me the opportunity to go out and assess the job location, to see what kind of challenges I would have, to see if I would have any difficulties shooting video or shooting stills for the client, to see if I could actually make a decent ortho mosaic of the area to demonstrate the construction changes. So I put in well over an hour up front to do some discovery so that I could have a full conversation with that client before I ever talk to them about prices. And in addition, I actually did a test flight for them to show them a couple of things that I could do. One thing that they didn't know they were interested in was doing the ortho mosaic so that they could see month after month. They decided they weren't interested in the 360 panos. So what I had for a job for them, the deliverables I had, were still photography from several corners of the job site, nine locations to be exact. Multiple flights through the property location to show the changes in video. And finally, an ortho mosaic model that we would update each month as well to show the major changes on the property. So the initial conversation was I didn't know what I wanted as the client. Not me, actually, the client is what I'm saying. They weren't sure. And so it was up to me to show them a menu of services that we could do for them and then have them select from that menu of services. So that's also where my website comes in because we show a lot of the services we do. So if you get that phone call of, I need to know a price right now, that might not be a great client for you. You need to start assessing with them first. You need to do what's called a discovery process, which is part of what I learned from that You Gurus class that I was telling you about earlier. In that class, they talked about doing what they called discovery sessions, and they actually had several discovery sessions for building their knowledge of the type of website they were going to build. And let me tell you, that discovery process works great, and it kind of falls, comes right over to the drone work that I do too. So the other thing, when someone just says, what's the price of your drone work? What's the price of your website? That depends. That's like calling a car dealership and saying, what's the price of a car? Well, what kind of car do you want? Do you want a small, compact, fuel-efficient car? Do you want a big diesel truck? Do you want something in between? Maybe you want a great off-road Jeep. What you decide on, Jeep, big diesel truck, whatever, is going to influence the price. So you normally have to get these potential clients to slow down slightly, and you need to gauge their needs. So you need a list of questions that you want answered prior to giving a quote. So I'm sure right now you're like, Rich, just give me a number. No, there is no just give me a number. Even when you're doing simple real estate sites. Let's look over on the screen here. So this is a recent job that I did for a realtor. It was a very quick job. Their regular drone person, for some reason, couldn't do this. And I am actually working with this group now. So we did a good enough job with them that they were happy. These are just some simple photos. All they wanted was some twilight shots. And with that in mind, the location was a half an hour from my location. So I factored in round trip drive time. I'm going to be spending an hour of my time and potentially up to an hour of my time on location. And then maybe another half an hour to an hour selecting the final images because they didn't need a bunch. They were very specific. They weren't even looking for 10. They were just looking for a couple to show off twilight. And we got those twilights and some more. So their price was much lower than another project that I did. Let me grab this screen here. So another client had come to me earlier in the year, and they had a architect who's going to be designing their new home. And the architect was interested in some drone photography, potentially a drone model of the area. And while I was out there, I actually met with the customers, and we discussed that maybe a 360 pano of the property wouldn't hurt either. So In the end, the private page that I did for them included a 3D drone model to show off the property, and I'm clicking on that, and there we go. So they can actually look around the property, see what's going on with the surroundings, see where the big trees are, and see if there's any major issues visible. Scrolling down, we did this 360 pano from them, and apparently the architect absolutely loved this. It was very useful to them. And then we did some still images from the property to get a feeling of the location and proximity to the other homes in the area. And finally, as a bonus for them, I threw in, because I was concerned about runoff, so we did a digital elevation model just to get an idea of if we were concerned about water, let's say during monsoons, what would our probable wet areas be? So in addition to all this, I also provided that client with some uploads on Dropbox. So this was actually a very similar job to the realtor job, even though these things look very different. This location was about the same distance as the real estate one that I just showed you for those images. The real estate one, I was just getting a couple of images. The focus was on twilight. In the case of this particular one on this web page that we're looking at, we were looking to provide some visual cues and information to the architect who'd be working on the location. In addition to that, the architect was also provided with our flight files, all the GPS information, so that they could use their own modeling software for the property and for the build that they were going to be doing. So both jobs were about the same distance, about the same drive time. The more complex job had a little more time on location flying, and then a lot more time editing things, creating a 360 virtual tour, creating a model took several hours. So the price between the two was different. This one was actually more expensive because we gave them some additional features that the client did in fact want, but didn't know the questions to ask. So pricing in the end is going to depend on your first and second conversation with your customer. You're going to find out their actual needs. You're going to find out if there are additional services you offer that they don't know about. And then you are going to propose to them what you can do for them and the final price. Price is going to be based on the value of your own time. Price is going to be based on your investment in your equipment. Price is going to be based on the insurance that you're carrying for liability. Price is going to be determined on the insurance you have on your drone hulls. Price is going to be based on the computers I have sitting in front of me. So there is no cookie cutter answer. And while we can put up some simple price models for people, let's say for doing work for them on real estate, in the end, until you have a conversation with that customer and find out all of their needs, don't say anything about price. Don't give them an immediate answer. Do your research, be thorough, and 9 times out of 10, when you do that with clients, they're actually going to be impressed with that process. So I would suggest starting to develop your own discovery process and starting to create your own cue sheets if you need to for the questions that you need to ask. Then your pricing is going to be a lot easier when you realize this client wants video, this client wants stills, this client wants an ortho, and this client wants a couple of 360s. Well, right there, all of that stuff just told me, including my flight time, including my drive time, and then all of my editing and work back at the office, I'm going to be spending over 8 hours on this particular project. What do I value my time at hourly, knowing that I've got an 8-hour project in front of me? And then you can actually recommend a price to them. All right, it's such a cringy topic, and I know that we're going over here, but it's not just a cookie cutter thing. It's not walking into Burger King and getting a burger versus going into a high-end restaurant and getting a burger. You're going to be paying something different because there's additional services that go on. There's additional amenities that go on. A quick burger, really fast, dirt cheap. Going to a nice restaurant where you get a higher end burger, maybe you got some mushrooms on it, and some cheese, you're going to be paying a lot more. It all depends on, what the client is really asking for. And it's up to you as the business owner to help guide them. Like I said, that earlier contract this year that's still ongoing, that started up in July, the clients didn't really know what they wanted. They knew that their investors wanted to be able to track the progress, and that's who actually requested a drone pilot. But they didn't know the right questions to ask or what they should be presenting. I had to coach them through that. And that was a good learning experience for them and a good learning experience for me. And in the end, they're incredibly satisfied with the product. And I could have probably charged them double because they're so satisfied with the product. So don't undercut yourself. Do the research, ask the questions, and then you can give people a price. In the meantime, what does a car cost? That's where you have to start digging. And you should also be pricing your work based on the research you're doing for them as well. I hope this video helped, and I know a bunch of you are probably thumbs downing it because I didn't give you a number. Like I said, there's no cookie cutter solution. Same thing for any other type of photographers out there or other service professionals. It's all based on your final client needs, and you can't give them a price until you've assessed all their needs. All right, everyone, have an awesome week, and we'll see you again soon.